mean, it's not the most satisfying answer in the world, but I don't think there is any other answer. And incidentally, you were mentioning the documents. The second half of the book, as some of you know, is all primary source documents. And I did that because there are going to be budding young historians who I think will benefit from reading these things that a lot of them have been forgotten about. But secondly, it's also just to show, like, I didn't make this up. Like, this happened. These are real opinions by real people. But I would strongly urge you, if you're not inclined to read the documents, at least read the one by Abel Upshur. I forget what title we gave to it, but read the one by Upshur, U-P-S-H-U-R. That is, I think, the strongest argument for nullification and the most effective criticism or defense against criticisms I've ever seen. And it has not been reprinted. It's the first time it has appeared in print since 1835. Completely forgotten. Now, I leave it to you as an exercise to figure out why a document like this would be forgotten. But totally gone. Now, Upshur was not an obscure person. He was a well-respected judge in his day. He served in John Tyler's cabinet. He wrote a response to Joseph Story's commentaries on the Constitution that completely smashes Story and restores a decentralist, federalist reading of the Constitution. And Upshur wrote this pamphlet on nullification. It's incredibly well done, and I used to assign it to my students. And notice the beauty of that. I assigned that, and then I assigned a speech by Daniel Webster, taking the opposite view. And then they had to adjudicate this dispute. Now, the beauty of that was because the Upshur pamphlet has not been reprinted since 1835, no one has written about it. So if you're going to try to plagiarize somebody's essay on Upshur, you're not going to find anything. So I remember seeing their faces as they walked out of the classroom thinking, oh, I'm going to stick it to this guy. I'll just go to Google, type in Abel Upshur, and I'll see. And then the next day they all come in, oh, there's nothing about this thing. I have to read it. Oh, it was beautiful. It was like the best thing I ever assigned. Okay, maybe we'll take one more, and then we should just disperse for chit-chat. Is there anyone who hasn't asked a question yet who wants to ask? Yes, sir?
I had a question. Given nullification, as the state nullifies the law, how does it prevent the federal government from nullifying the nullification?
Okay, so the question would really be like, what if push really comes to shove?
Right.
And the federal government says, no, we are absolutely determined to do this. Well, there are two things here. One would be that sort of my hope would be that the states we would resuscitate the old committees of correspondence, except now communication is instant, and we can be in touch with each other and coordinate our actions. So we don't have to be in a situation anymore in which we're just one lone state. The federal government is engaged in so many outrages on a daily basis that you can easily find a good plurality of states that would be willing to work together. And I think there's strength in numbers. I think it would be hard for the federal government to say, all right, you 27 states, we're going to show you. I mean, really? And then meanwhile, you've got another collection of 14 states who are nullifying something else. They're going to show them too, at the same time that another 30 are. I think it would be impractical. But let's entertain this. Let's not evade it. I mean, let's just say that we're faced with that. Well, that's what we were faced with the so-called nullification crisis involving South Carolina. It was precisely that, where you had, Andrew Jackson, who viewed this in sort of a military way. This was just insubordination. That was the only way he could conceive of it. And South Carolina was determined to stick to its position, and the federal government was determined to stick to its position, and it went to the brink. But then sounder heads prevailed. People realized, wait a minute. We're not actually going to shed blood over some tariffs, right? I mean, we're more civilized than that, presumably. And ultimately, we came down from the brink. And I rather suspect that at a time when the U.S. government is doing its best to claim that it's spreading democracy around the world, it does not want to be jailing sheriffs and governors. I mean, really. And then go and lecture China on human rights and stuff. I mean, I think even they have enough shame not to want to do that. I think they want to avoid this. In fact, Sheriff Mack, one of his points that he can back up better than I can, is that he says, I have it on good authority that one thing the federal government does not want is a confrontation with a sheriff or a group of sheriffs. And that is a lose-lose for them. Because people love the sheriff, basically. Like, this is not something they want to pursue. So, we have to think strategically of where are the weak points, and where are the points where we can get the broadest possible popular consensus behind us. And this is why we need to brainstorm. We need to have a lot of websites. We need to have conferences where we're not just giving rah-rah speeches, but where we're actually having give and take, thinking about, well, what should we do and in what order, and so on. All right, well, thanks very much, and now we'll adjourn for whatever comes next.